Isang magandang araw sa ating lahat mga kabayan. Welcome and welcome back sa ating channel, The Opinionated Kabayan. Kamusta kayo? Sana ay nasa mabuti kayong kalagayan. Another day, another video opinion na naman tayo. Sa mga hindi pa nakasubscribe sa ating channel, ay mag-subscribe na kayo para lagi kayong updated sa ating mga video opinions here. For today's video, atin namang tatalakayin ang pinakamabigat at primary witness or evidence against Quiboloy and his co-accused, which have been confirmed by DOJ. Pakinggan natin ang pahayag ng DOJ and alamin natin kung sino ba itong witness na ito.
Yung pinakamabigat na ebidensya laban sa mga akusado sa kaso na to ay yung testigo ni Alice Amanda.
Si alias Amanda ay isa sa mga witnesses against Quiboloy na minsan nang humarap sa Senate hearing early this year. Ano nga bang ebidensya ang meron siya? Ano kaya ang ginawa sa kanya ni Quiboloy para maging primary witness siya? Tara, alamin natin mula sa revelation ni Arlene Stone.
Meron akong babasahin sa inyo na affidavit. Ito yung kaso niyan sa Pilipinas na ini-install niya. Hindi siya nagsumisipot sa mga hearing. Okay, itong affidavit na to, ito yung case ng rape case na pinail dyan sa Davao. Sige, basahin natin ha. 12, 18, 19. Kasi sabi ni Pacquiao, gawa-gawa lang daw. At narinig niyo naman yung mga ibang pastoral, sabi, gawa-gawa lang din daw. Pero tingnan natin kung ito ba ay gawa-gawa. Okay, Public of the Philippines, Department of Justice, National Prosecution Service Office of Davao City Prosecutor, Davao City, Davao del Sur. Blenda is Portugal, the complainant, versus Pastor Apollo si Quiboloy, Jacqueline W. Roy, yung singer nila, Crescente Canada, ito yung kapatid ni Ingrid Canada na grabe mang-abuse ng mga workers. Pauline Canada, ito yung kapatid ni Ingrid Canada din, at si Ingrid Canada. Kasi sila yung mga accomplices, no? Rape as defined under R266-A, Par 1, C of the Revised Penal Code as amended by RA number 8353, qualified trafficking in person as defined under Sec 3A in relation to Sec 6 of RA number 9208 as amended by RA number 10364 and child abuse as defined under Sec 3B of RA number 7610. Affidavit complaint. Blenda Sanchez, Portugal, 22 years old, being born on April 3rd, 1997, Filipino, single, resident of Limos Balmoria, Interina Law Firm, second floor, View Square Building, Liwayway, Commercial Area, National Highway, Tagum City, Davao del Norte, Philippines. After having been sworn to, in accordance with law, hereby freely depose and state that I am executing this affidavit complaint for purposes of filing appropriate criminal cases against Pastor Apollo C. Quiboloy, hereinafter referred to as Respondent Pacquiao or Mangkanor for brevity, Jacqueline W. Roy, hereinafter referred to as Respondent Roy for brevity, Crescente Canada, aka Enting, hereafter referred to as Respondent Enting for brevity, Pauline Canada, hereinafter referred to as Respondent Pauline for brevity, Ingrid C. Canada, hereinafter referred to as Respondent Ingrid for brevity, who all may be served with subpoena and other processes of this honorable office at the office address of Kingdom of Jesus Christ, the name above every name, located at KJC Compound, Philippines, Japan, Friendship Highway, Buhangin, Davao City, Philippines. And Sylvia Simanes, hereinafter referred to as Respondent Simanes for brevity, who may be served with subpoena and other processes of this office at Kingdom Local Congregation of KJC in Pasig City, Metro Manila for rape, with respect to Pacquiao, aka Mangkanor, as defined under Art. The 266-A Par 1C of the Revised Penal Code as amended by RA number 8353, qualified trafficking in person as defined under Sec 3A in relation to Sec 6 of RA number 9208 as amended by RA number 10364 with respect to all the respondent, and child abuse as defined under Sec 3B of RA number 7610 with respect to all respondent. Number 2, I am a former full-time miracle worker, FTW, of Kingdom of Jesus Christ, the name above every name, hereinafter referred to as KJC for brevity, founded by Pacquiao, aka Mangkanor. Dinagdagan ko lang yan, Mangkanor. Number 3, I came to know the KJC ministry through my father, Eliseo C. Portugal Jr., who was then an avid televiewer of Pacquiao's own TV program. I was 10 years old back then when my father became a member of KJC through its branch in Pasig City designated as Kingdom Local Congregation, hereinafter referred to as KLC for brevity, which is headed by a district coordinator. Back then, the district coordinator of KLC Pasig City was Simanes. In respect In retrospect, I realized that she was the one who first took advantage on our family vulnerability and exploited the first indications of our blind submission and uncritical obedience, especially that of my father. Among those indications was the willingness of my father to be engulfed with debt just to comply with the tithes demanded on our family by Pacquiao and KJC. There were times before when my father would not leave our house because he was hooked on TV watching Pacquiao's program 24 hours a day. In fact, when Pacquiao prayed on TV, my father would hold the television screen and pray with him. My father became then an active member of KJC and never missed the church activities. This fanatical act of my father set the things in motion which led to our exploitation because we unwittingly believed that Pacquiao is indeed what he claimed to be, and we became devoted to him and his teaching. Now let's go back to the note here. Attached as Annex A to A-6 are the picture depicting me with other KJC workers and pastoral department workers of Pacquiao to form integral parts thereof. Attached is Annex B and printed picture of my father standing with KJC calendar on the wall as a backdraft bearing Pacquiao photos, which I have caused to be printed to form an integral part hereof. Number 6. About 2009, when I was 12 years old, I started going to the KJC church together with my sister Elaine S. Portugal, who was then 10 years old. At the highest of the Simanes, the KLC Pasig City coordinator, our father forced us to go to the KLC Pasig City because according to Pacquiao's teaching, it was the Father's will for the salvation of our soul, and my father blindly believed so. There was a time when our father would reprimand us if we refused to go to KJC church. The said admonishment was repeated when my sister and I were already full-time miracle worker at KJC headquarters in Davao City. My father was deeply obsessed with Pacquiao, and he even sold several of our properties and gave the proceeds thereof to Pacquiao's church upon the prodding of the latter, since doing so is part of the latter's main teaching. Had my parents not believed in me to spare our house, we would have been homeless when we left the KJC. In 2010 to 2011, my sister Elaine and I were exposed and became active members of KJC through its KLC Pasig City led by Simanis, who exerted earnest effort in recruiting us to take an active participation in KJC's activities, especially the fundraising through begging and caroling. In short, we initially learned and participated in KJC activities through KLC Pasig City. In May 2011, upon prodding of Simanis, my father instructed me and the complainant to attend our first KJC Regional Youth Congress in Baguio City, with all the expenses on our accommodations, food, and transportations being shouldered by our father. In retrospective, I realized that KJC Youth Congress is aimed to discover hidden talent from the attending youth who are already members and others who are all potential members. There are several activities showcasing different talents, and to impress upon us that it was a privilege to be there and that it behoved upon us to please and submit to the will of the Father through his self-claimed appointed Son. Respondent Pacquiao, thus all the fellowships, meeting, and seminars at the said event. Although at that time my sister and I did not fully comprehend their implications and meanings, that Father's will for Pacquiao is to let myself to be exploited both in forms of sexual and forced labor, but looking back, I realized that in the bigger picture of things, the event was nothing else but designed to instill upon me, my sister, and the rest of the attending youth that blind submission and uncritical obedience, which are among the vital contributing factors of our silence amidst the abuses and the perpetration thereof. Sometime in 2012, my sister and I were baptized under KJC rites, and we officially became members of KJC over the objection of our mother, Emily S. Portugal, who at that time was not fully convinced, yet at responded Pacquiao's teaching, such as he is the appointed Son of God, among others. However, Pacquiao was able to gain the trust and confidence of my mother, as the latter had also fallen under the spell of Pacquiao's fanatic teaching. Eventually, upon gaining moral authority and ascendancy over us through constant indoctrination that earning money for KJC was whatever means is a moral thing to do, Simanes instructed us to participate in the area activities and forced us to beg for money from any person, do carolings anywhere, sell OTAP, giving envelopes to solicitations, and more. The same instruction was repeated by Pacquiao himself when I was already a full-time miracle worker. I was 14 years old back then when I was taught to knock from house to house to beg for money, even if it was against my will. In other words, my sister and I were indoctrinated that actively participating in the fundraising activities of the KJC, such as begging and caroling, is part of being a member of Respondent Pacquiao's KJC. Thus, despite the feeling of embarrassment and being confused, we were forced to beg from any persons, institution, and establishment. I was confused due to the fact that we were given daily quotas on how much we should earn in begging and due to the expense instruction from Respondent Simanis, the coordinator of KLC Pasig City, that we should never disclose our affiliation with Respondent Pacquiao's KGC, and we were even advised to use other religions, sects, or even associations as our affiliated front groups in case of being asked. This instruction was repeated by Respondent Pacquiao himself when I was already a full-time miracle worker of KGC. My sister and I were innocently following what we were instructed to do without even knowing what could possibly happen to us. My father did not even bother what our coordinator asked us to do. According to my father, we just have to continue and follow because it is the will of the Almighty Father, or they called it Father's will. Even though I was not musically talented, I learned to play musical instrument because I was part of the group that asked or begged for money through rendering songs or caroling. In September 2011 to January 2012, KJC called it Months of Blessing, MOB. All the members and full-time miracle workers of KGC were forced to sell anything or fundraising, beg money using different names of associations and group anywhere in the Philippines and even outside the country. We had no choice but to obey our coordinator, otherwise we would be called to the KJC office, lectured with Bible passages, and beaten up with any objects. During the month of blessings, KGC members and full-time workers were ordered to go to Manila and other parts of the country and around the world to raise money for the church. I have personal knowledge thereof because I was among those instructed to participate in the fundraising activities during the said event and on the occasions thereof. I learned from other members who originated from other parts of the country that our activities were coordinated KJC-wide. Like me, the members and workers involved were ordered by our respective leaders to use different associations as front in asking money from different companies, malls, prominent families, and from any people within our assigned area. Some of the associations that the KGC community are using to raise money are Children's Joy Foundation Incorporated, Alay sa May Kapansanan Associations, Pagdamay sa Dukha Associations, Life Giver Associations, Life Shavers Associations, Handog ng Pagmamahal Associations, Sam of David Orchestra, among others. During the MOB period, we were trained and expressly instructed by Pacquiao that other KGC leaders to deny our true affiliation with KGC if people would ask if we are members of the said group. We were told that we only have to tell the outside people that we were only volunteers, and the only reason why we were asking money was not for our own benefit, but for the benefits of the beneficiaries of the associations that we were using as front. In most cases, we name drop our affiliated front groups to entice the persons or entities to whom or which we are begging to, or to whom or which we were rendering our carols, to give substantial amount of donations. In 2012 also, my sister and I went to Davao City to participate in KGC International Congress. Like the one in Baguio City, we were immersed into different activities, showcasing our talent, and we were subjected to fellowship meetings and seminars, although the participants' origin was far more diverse than in Baguio City. At that time also, we saw in person the members of KGC whom we always saw on TV programs of Respondent Pacquiao. Sometime in December 2012, we were recruited by Marlon Rossetti to be part of his caroling group, which used association's name called Sam of David Orchestra. He told us that we would sing in front of Pastor Quiboloy at his residential address in Quezon City, particularly at KGC Compound, Masart Street, Greenville, Subdivision, Barangay Saoyo, Novaliches, Davao City. It was the very first time that my sister and I met Pacquiao, who blurted out upon seeing us to quote, "Oh, the Portugal sisters." In fact, after our group's performance, we had a pictorial with Respondent Pacquiao. It must be noted that we all remitted our earnings from whatever fundraising activities we participated into in favor of KGC through its coordinators. After that encounter with Respondent Pacquiao, in his house in Quezon City, several leaders, among them is Respondent Simanis, kept on recruiting me and my sister to be KGC full-time miracle workers and asked to sign up as full-time workers because accordingly, it is the Father's will and there are many privileges like free education, at Jose Maria College, traveling abroad for free, among others. The same offer was repeated by Respondent Pacquiao himself during our second encounter in Davao City. In January 2013, KJC Minister Alain Balmes informed me and my sister that Respondent Pacquiao invited us to attend and sing during his open field concert. Overjoyed by the fact that it was Respondent Pacquiao himself who invited us, we readily accepted the invitation. My sister and I, including our mother and our brother Benedict, went to Davao City and personally met Respondent Pacquiao for the second time. We were able to confirm from Respondent Pacquiao's statement himself that indeed he invited us there. When we arrived in Davao City, my sister and I joined for the first time the choir group of Pastor Quiboloy and became part of his live open field concert crusade. During that time, I had this observation that almost all those who were invited to join the choir group had pleasing appearances, and being among them amused me and my sister. After the open field concert, Celine to hear us, a KJC worker informed us that Respondent Pacquiao would like to have dinner with us at his restaurant at King Chow. So my sister and I, together with our brother and mother, joined Respondent Pacquiao in the same table at the said restaurant. During that dinner, Respondent Pacquiao and Respondent Ingrid recruited me and my sister to be full-time workers, and he convinced my mother that entering as full-time workers in Pacquiao's ministry is the Father's will, which, if obeyed, would bring us blessings, since accordingly we would be secured. He told us that he would give us free education through scholarship at Jose Maria or JMC with free allowances and free board and lodging, that we would have the privilege to be part of his choir group and to appear on his live TV program, that we would get the chance to ride his aircraft, and that we could accordingly travel abroad for free. We were overwhelmed by the sweet promises and representation made by Respondent Pacquiao that we would part of something bigger than ourselves at the ministry. On the part of our mother, she made up her mind that at that time that entering as full-time miracle workers was indeed for our best interest, since it would mean that she and my father would be unburdened with our educational expenses. Looking back, it is still hurting that our desire to belong to something meaningful with Pacquiao, the appointed son of God, and our parents' desire to secure us with bright educational opportunities at JMC was exploited by Respondent Pacquiao and Ingrid. At that time, my parents were annually paying 80,000 pesos for our tuition fees alone at Pasig Catholic College. We stayed in Davao City for several days, and during those times, we were brought to KJC Prayer Mountain in Tamayong, Davao City, and we were allowed to roam around the KJC compound near Davao Airport just to convince us how beautiful it would be if we would be permanently staying there as full-time miracle workers. Sometime in May 2013, there was a scheduled KJC Youth Congress in the central headquarters of KJC in Davao City. Every youth congress, young people from the different parts of the world and in the Philippines are gathered together for several weeks of competition and activities. Since my sister and I were already members of KJC, we were likewise required to attend the said congress. My father booked plane tickets for me and my sister Elaine. Little did I know that the said event was just a pretext to provide an avenue to scout would-be members of close in pastoral of Respondent Pacquiao's KJC. As a consequence of constant recruitment, and after having been convinced by the respondents that entering as full-time miracle workers would be for our family's best interest in view of the promises made by Respondent Pacquiao and others, my parents, including me and Elaine, decided to accept the offer and to concede with the recruitment, and that we would volunteer as full-time miracle workers after the said Youth Congress. After the KJC Youth Congress, my sister and I stayed in Davao City to work as full-time miracle workers of Respondent Pacquiao's KJC. We did not return to Manila anymore. My parents decided that we were safer in Davao and we would be able to finish our studies thereat. During our initial stay as full-time miracle workers of KJC, we were asked to sign several documents like the full-time miracle worker form and a pastoral department form in the administrative office of KJC. When we affixed our signature, we were never informed and fully explained with the contents thereof and their consequences. At first, we were housed in Jose Maria or JMC Annex building, where all the other new full-time workers like us also stayed. In the said annex, there were several double-deck beds and rooms. Each rooms had 5 to 6 beds. The persons housed in the rooms where we stayed are called pastoral care extended. Among my main jobs as pastoral was to assist in preparing Respondent Pacquiao's food, clothing, bathing regimens, among others, and to sing during the fellowship or any KGC activities. During our first few months as full-time workers, things went smoothly. Our schedules were routinary It was during that time that my sister and I noticed that there are two categories of full-time workers. There are extended pastorals and close-in pastorals. The close-in pastorals have duties and responsibilities which pertain to the day-to-day pastoral needs and activities of respondent PACU. The schedules and the movement of close-in pastorals were far more restricted, and they were housed in rooms near the rooms of respondent PACU. In June 2013, my sister and I were enrolled at Jose Maria College. While studying at JMC, we were still forced to sell things or foods in school, and despite the embarrassment, my sister and I were forced to do so because, again, it was accordingly part of the Father's will as full-time miracle workers to earn money for KJC. About July 2013, my sister and I were transferred to a dormitory near Davao Airport, situated inside the KJC Davao compound after we were accordingly elevated to the status as close-in pastorals. During that time, KJC workers confiscated our camera, cell phone, and laptop, and we were prohibited from borrowing from our classmates at JMC because we were not allowed to communicate to our parents. About February 2014, some members of the pastoral care department, including me and my sister, underwent disciplinary action, and we were physically punished whenever we committed mistakes. In one instance, one of the workers of Respondent PACU, Respondent Enting, paddled me, my sister, and my fellow workers from the pastoral department using a 2x2 wood just because our restroom was dirty. In another instance, my sister and I were paddled again because allegedly we left a dirty bag in our bed. After Respondent Roy read a Bible verse to us, Enting paddled each one of us inside the room of Teresita Dandan, a KJC administrator. Like my sister, I was really confused at that time why we were being punished for very trivial reasons. After the ordeal, it was very difficult to walk and sit down because of the intensity of the heat on our bodies. I was so shocked at that time because it was the first time that I suffered a physical punishment because even our parents never inflicted corporal punishment on us. The process of disciplinary actions at KJC by inflicting physical maltreatment caused emotional and psychological trauma upon me because I felt that my intrinsic dignity as a child was degraded, considering that I was there for all good reasons, but only to suffer corporal punishment for trivial things which I did not even suffer from my parents. In July 2014, my sister and I were called by Respondent Roy, the pastoral department head and one of the lead singer in the KJC church. Because Respondent Pacquiao wanted to talk to us, we were instructed to take a bath, dry our hair, and put on perfume. When we arrived in the room of Respondent Pacquiao, he let us sit in his sofa and he asked us about our situation. Respondent Pacquiao asked us about our stay in Davao City and about our school grades. He, however, became more interested in asking us about our loyalty to the Father or how willing we were to submit to the oft-repeated Father's will. Later into the conversation, Respondent Pacquiao began reading the Bible to us, reading verses about commitment, loyalty, and being submissive. At the end of the conversation, Respondent Pacquiao asked us if we understood what he meant. I answered that I understood it and that what he meant that I should be obedient and submissive to instructions and that we should not question the Son regardless of the nature of the instruction. He likewise made it clear that what he meant with the Son is him, he being the appointed Son of God, as he has been preaching. On September 1st, 2014, I was 17 years old then, and the tribute program of KGC had just finished. I was already preparing to sleep that time when a fellow pastoral workers told me that I should go to the dining area in the Bible school because Respondent Roy was calling me. I readily went to the dining area and I saw Respondent Roy waiting for me. There were no other people in the dining area at that time, and it was dark and silent because it was already late in the evening, and most of the people with us were already sleeping. While just the two of us were there, Respondent Roy gave me few advices like she told me, Blenda, koneksyon mo ito sa amahan. Privilege na mabilang sa pastoral. I-sanctify mo sarili mo. Blenda, this is your connection to the Father. It is a privilege to be part of the pastoral. You sanctify yourself. Then she told me that part of the ministry of the pastorals is to massage Respondent Pacquiao. She told me that it is a privilege because not everyone could touch the Son and be close to him. She further told me that I should not question whatever happens inside the room of Respondent Pacquiao and that I should just submit myself to him. She told me to prepare, take a bath, brush my teeth, and blow dry my hair after bath. Even if my mind is puzzled that time, I just listened to her. Respondent Roy asked me to get my pair of pajamas and show to her because she wanted to smell it. So I went back to my room and took my pair of pajamas. Then I went back to the dining area and showed to her my pajamas. She smelled my pajamas and said that she would instead lend me her pajamas. So I went back to my room and Respondent Roy went upstairs to get her pajamas before I took a bath. Respondent Roy went to our room and gave me a t-shirt with buttons and pajamas pants, a shampoo, Palmolive violet color, a lotion and body mist, Bath and Body Works brand, with specific scent of Enchanted. She said that it is the favorite scent of Respondent Pacquiao. She said that I should take a bath and scrub well and that she would wait for me inside the room of Respondent Pacquiao. After I took a bath and blow-dried my hair, I went to the room of Respondent Pacquiao, which was then located in the Bible School building. The room of Respondent Pacquiao has two doors. The first door was already opened that time, so I just slowly went inside. However, there is another door leading to the main room of Respondent Pacquiao. I knocked and Respondent Roy opened the door. She led me to the bed of Respondent Pacquiao. At first, Respondent Roy asked me to sit in the bed near the feet of Respondent Pacquiao. During that time, I saw Respondent Pacquiao laying on his bed and he was sleeping and snoring while Respondent Roy was demonstrating to me how to massage Respondent Pacquiao. She told me to start from the feet. She was demonstrating the ways to massage him and I was just listening intently to Respondent Roy. She also told me to massage up to the head of Respondent Roy, but she did not demonstrate it anymore. After Respondent Roy left me in the room, she instructed me that after I massaged Respondent Pacquiao, I should not leave him in the room. She told me that I should wait for his instruction. Until and unless there is an instruction from Respondent Pacquiao that I can leave the room, I should not leave. When Respondent Roy left the room, I started massaging the back of Respondent Pacquiao. Respondent Pacquiao was on a slanting position that time. I was very sleepy because it was already 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning. When I began to massage the back area of Respondent Pacquiao, he began to move and he faced me. Since Respondent Pacquiao changed his position, I just continued massaging his foot. He then told me to move in the middle of his bed. So I followed his instruction and I just sat on his bed in a cross-leg position and I continued massaging him in the back. But suddenly he rose up and he sat on in front of me. He started to unbutton my t-shirt until he pulled up my whole shirt. He then asked me to turn my back against him. He slowly removed my bra. After he removed my bra, he held my shoulder and he pulled my back going down to his bed in a laying position. When I was already lied down, Respondent Pacquiao mounted on top of me. He began rubbing his penis against my vagina, even when we were still both in our pajamas, and he started kissing my neck. I became very stiff and I wanted to shout for help and to question what he was doing, but I remembered what Respondent Roy told me that I am not allowed to ask questions. But when his organ became hard already, he started to remove my pajama pants and underwear. He sucked my breast. He also removed his pajamas pants and his brief. My legs were totally shaking and I was just controlling my tears. And I just stared in the ceiling during that time, feeling so shocked and helpless. Then Respondent Pacquiao hastily inserted his penis into my vagina. I was so shocked and could not move. I was trying to control my muscles. Respondent Pacquiao touched my both legs and opened it widely. He then pulled my legs upward and forcibly do the push and pull movement using his penis into my vagina. Both my legs and my body were shaking because I could really feel the pain whenever he forced his penis into my vagina. After the several minutes, he pulled his penis out and hurriedly went to the CR. I was left blank, just staring at the ceiling and started to cry. There were so many questions in my head, but I kept it to myself. I just told myself that maybe this is the Father's will in my life. Everything that happened during that time was all shocking to me, since that was the very first time that someone had touched and penetrated my vagina. After Respondent Pacquiao returned from his restroom, he instructed me to put my clothes on. I put my clothes on and I sat in the corner of his bed crying silently. But Respondent Pacquiao called me and said, "Blenda, humiga ka dito sa tabi ko at matulog ka na. Blenda, you lie here beside me and sleep." I did as I was told and I slept facing away from him, but he hugged me and clasped at my breast. He told me to go back to my room at 6 or 7 a.m. when others were still sleeping. Before I slept, he instructed me saying, mamaya, pagkagising mo ng maaga, huwag kang lalabas sa main na pinto, doon ka sa likod, sa garden. Later, when you wake up, do not go through the main door, but go through the garden. After he said that, I just nodded and said, Opo. I was just devastated that the man whom I have so much respect would do such thing to me. I was helpless and I could not do anything because of fear. He is Pastor Quiboloy, the man whom we believe as the Son of God and whom I perceive to be a lot of connections, as he frequently said. He was so strong and I felt so weak and helpless, even to register my slightest complaint. This is the reason why it is only now that I have finally summoned enough strength to file this case. The fear is crippling me, but my resolve now is clear to expose all the respondents. Otherwise, more like me would end up like me, exploited, raped, broken, depressed, bullied, and even ostracized by the lies penetrated and spread by the respondent, especially Pacquiao. When I went back to the room, I wanted so much to just lay down and rest, but my companion started waking up and preparing for the practice of our Thanksgiving and worship presentation program for the next day. I was very sleepy and very stressed. I was dazed and confused. I felt so lost. During practice, I opened my mouth, staring off in space, but I could not hear anything. A week after that horrible incident, I really wanted to ask other pastorals who were with me. I approached one pastoral, Mary Joy Giral, Ate Joji, because I trusted her. I asked her what happened, Ate. Is that part of being a pastoral? Ate Joji told me, Blends, you are not allowed to question. She just laughed. Ate Joji told Respondent Roy about our conversation. Respondent Roy summoned me and she was very angry. She then told me angrily, I already told you not to question because this is our connection to the Father. When I was about to answer, she added, What? Are we all close to him? Yes, Blenda, all of us are close to him. I did not continue asking. On April 3, 2015, it was my birthday and I asked permission from Respondent Roy that I would celebrate my birthday with my fellow pastoral together with my sister in our room, called as the Blue Room. Respondent Roy consented to my request. We had pajama party that time together with my co-pastorals who were also staying at the Blue Room, namely Stephanie Ibarra, Jonah Morales, Catherine Laron, Olive Kiamco, Joji Giral, and Sheila Barbero, and my sister. Elaine, who was staying at the Yellow Room. While we were having fun inside the room, Stephanie Ibarra whispered to my ears and told me that Respondent Roy was calling me. So I went outside the room and Respondent Roy was silently whispered to me that I should get ready, take a bath, and report again to Respondent Pacquiao's room. When all my roommates were asleep, including my sister Elaine, who had no idea then about our bodily connection ministry at Respondent Pacquiao room. So I took a bath and went, and when I finished, everyone in blue and yellow rooms were already sleeping, including my sister. I went directly to the room of Respondent Pacquiao. Again, I was terrified because I did not know what would happen to me again after the massage. When I was inside his room for the second time, I saw Respondent Roy massaging the feet of Respondent Pacquiao. When Respondent Roy saw me, she stood up and left the room. I saw Respondent Pacquiao laying in the back position that time. I continued the massage while Respondent Pacquiao was sleeping soundly and he was snoring. As usual, I massaged from his feet until his back, only because I was really sleepy and tired as it was already 1 o'clock in the morning that time. I slowly massaged Respondent Pacquiao because I did not want to wake him up and I was planning to escape immediately after the massage. After an hour and Respondent Pacquiao was still sleeping, I readily left his room without asking permission and went to sleep. I was relieved that nothing happened to me that night. Gradually, as I realized that the so-called connection ministry was nothing but a justification to further abuse me, I started observing the other members of close-in pastoral. I would intentionally sleep late at night to observe the other pastorals. I noticed that as if there was a routine among us. Almost every night, one pastoral would take a bath, would wear newly washed clothes, and would use the same shampoo brand, Palmolive Violet Color, a lotion and body mist, Bath and Body Works brand, with specific scent of Enchanted, which, according to Respondent Roy, the favorite scent of Respondent Pacquiao. Sometimes, others would use Victoria's Secret. I further observed that the pastoral who took a bath would leave a room and would be back around 6 or 7 in the morning. In 2016, I sought permission to leave and go home, but I was not allowed to go home. Thereafter, I was already under tight watch and I was frequently scolded. In fact, when I talked to my classmate, I was told that there was a demon inside me. I was then not allowed to have anyone near me because allegedly I committed an offense. In March 2016, while we were practicing for the National Children's Day, or the birthday of Pastor Quiboloy on April 25, 2016, I was summoned again to go on duty under the pretext of bodily connection ministry. For Respondent Pacquiao, I obeyed and I gave him a massage, but I escaped again. Whenever he slept, I went out of the room. This caused Respondent Roy and Pacquiao to be angry at me, but I neither answered them back nor engaged their hostility against me. I really wanted to go home already because of fear, and I did not understand anymore the KGC ministry. On 1st May 2016, there was a mass at the open field inside the compound of Respondent Pacquiao. While Respondent Pacquiao was preaching, I borrowed the phone of my companion Felicia, and I called my mother, who was at the airport at that time. I began crying, and I begged my mother to go back to the compound. When she arrived, I cried really hard, and I begged my mother to give me money for my fare because I really wanted to go home, and I tell her everything. At first, my mother hesitated because she was afraid that my father would be angry, but at the end, she conceded. I told my mother to go back to the airport and to meet us there. I went back to my room in JMC to change my clothes as a disguise. I wore a gray hoodie, jeans, and rubber shoes. I met my brother at the cathedral and we waited for the members to leave so we could leave with them. After we sent my mother to the airport, I stayed at the apartment of my friend who also helped me book my ticket. I left for Manila the next day. After I escaped from the kingdom, I told my parents everything that happened to me whilst inside the circle of Respondent Pacquiao. I told them my sister Elaine had no idea yet about what happened to me and that we needed to save her because I knew that she could possibly be the next victim of Respondent Pacquiao. Shortly after I left the KGC, my mother went to Davao City to rescue my sister Elaine. There was really a hard time to rescue my sister, but because of the incessant demand of my mother and considering that my sister was still a minor at that time, my sister was finally released and she went back with my mother in our place in Pasig City, Metro Manila. After our exodus from the Respondent Pacquiao's KGC ministry, he always mentioned my name in his sermon and accusing me and my sister of many things which are not true. I am submitting a video clips of one of said sermons. Several months after I escaped from my traumatic life inside a KGC compound, I contacted several ex-pastorals workers who were no longer connected to KGC. They also shared to me their horrible experiences inside. I was surprised that their experiences were worse than mine. A former close-in pastoral told me that she was also raped at a very young age, and it did not only happen once, but several times for many years during her stay inside the KGC of Respondent Pacquiao. Since it was very hard to escape from KGC, especially if you are part of the pastoral department, she likewise made a way to escape from that hellish place. She said that she had undergone psychological therapies outside after she left because of the depression and trauma that she experienced. Like me, they are too afraid to file cases against Respondent Pacquiao, especially that he had wide connection all over the Philippines. Like most of us who became part of his inner circle, we just cried in silence and praying that one day there will be justice to everything that has happened to us at KGC, whose other members have become complicit in Respondent Pacquiao's crime. What could have been a spiritual journey with the Respondent ended as a nightmare for me and for my entire family. Instead of preparing us for spiritual and human development, we were only recruited in order to be exploited both in sexual and labor forms, like my case and labor in the case of my sister Elaine. My suffering did not end when I left KJC, but continues up to now because Respondent Pacquiao continued to spread lies to discredit me and to preempt this instant complaint. The administration of JMC likewise acted in concert with Respondent Pacquiao in causing harm against me, my sister Elaine, and my entire family by depriving me to move forward with my education by unreasonably withholding our transcript of record up to now. I was forced to stop attending school at Pasig Catholic College, PCC, because I was unable to provide my TOR despite formal requests by PCC with JMC. JMC opined with we were still in debt to them, despite the fact that, as promised by Respondent Pacquiao himself, we were scholars there. The malicious refusal to release our TOR is nothing but another ploy to chain us to Pacquiao's KGC in a form of death bondage. In sum, I was recruited and transported to Davao City Pasig City, from Pasig City at the BS and the active participants of the respondent PACU, Ingrid and Simanes, in order to join as full-time miracle workers of KJC, believing that doing so would be for our salvation of our soul and for the best interest of our family, which I thought would be relieved of the financial burden of my educational expenses as promised by respondent PACU. Ingrid and Simanes that I would be a scholar at JMC with free allowance and free board and lodging. My recruitment and transportation were done by taking advantage of my vulnerability and that of the family after we became devoted to the PACU. The recruitment and transportation were aimed for the purposes of sexually exploiting me and to engage me in forced labor. Respondents were able to traffic me and my sister by exploiting our vulnerability and of our parents who became fanatic members of KGC. Respondent exploited our desire to fill in that void for belongingness in our parents' aspiration to have a secured educational opportunities at JMC. I stayed in Davao City, but instead of working for miracles, I was forced to beg and sell in order to raise funds for the father. Worse, I was sexually exploited by Pastor Apollo Quiboloy, and I was made to believe that I cannot question the exploitation because it was wrong to question the father. I believe that a crime had been committed against me and that it is only the strong and fair arms of justice that can help victims like me. I am exposing Pacquiao in order to achieve justice for myself and for his other victims who cannot escape from these criminal acts just because he is powerful, influential, and moneyed. People like me may not be equipped with enough money and power to challenge an adversary like him, but I believe that truth will always prevail, and this is the only way to end the sexual abuses and exploitation that were done by Pacquiao to many minor women like me. I am executing this affidavit complaint to attest the truthfulness of the foregoing and to lodge appropriate criminal cases against Pastor Apollo C. Quiboloy, Jacqueline W. Roy, Crescenti Canada, aka Inting, Pauline Canada, Ingrid C. Canada, who all may be served with subpoena and other processes of this honorable office at the office address of Kingdom of Jesus Christ, the name above every name, located at KGC Compound, Philippine Japan, Friendship Highway, Buhangin, Davao City, Philippines, and Sylvia Simanes, who may be served with subpoena and other processes of this office at Kingdom Local Congregation of KJC in Pasig City, Metro Manila, for rape, with respect of Pacquiao as defined under Art 266-A, PAR.1C, and the revised penal code as amended by RA number 8353, qualified trafficking in person as defined under Sec. 3, in relation to Sec 6 of RA number 9208 as amended by RA number 10364 with respect to all the respondent. With child abuse as defined under Sec 3B of RA number 7610 with respect to all respondent and for any other cases obtaining in the foregoing circumstances. In witness thereof, I have here and to set forth my hand this 18th day of December 9, 2019 at Davao City, Davao del Sur, Philippines. Signed by the complainant. So guys, what do you think of that? Gawa-gawa? Kaya mga pastoral, ano tong bodily connection? What is bodily connection to the Father? Kailangan ba talaga may bodily connection tayo? What is bodily connection? When two body are connected to each other, ano yan? Spiritual? Spiritual ba yan, Pacquiao? Kayo din mga pastoral, no? Kinukonsit ninyo itong kademonyuhan ng matanda ito. Ang tanda-tanda mo na, napakademonyo mo. Mga bata, ginagago mo. Nakukulang pa talaga yung buhay mo, Pacquiao, para ibayad sa mga kagaguhan mo, kademonyuhan mo. Bodily connection to the Father? Spiritual? Huwag mo nga kaming paglulukuhin, mangkanor na animal. Kayo guys, how do you feel about this? Sige nga kayong mga audience ko dito. How do you feel about this? Do you feel good about this? What can we do? Should we not do anything? Should we just keep quiet? Nakakabuisit to.
So ayun mga kabayan, nanggigil din ba kayo katulad ni Arlene Stone? By the way, alias Amanda is Blenda, Portugal, and this is her detailed testimony. I didn't blur her real name, nor bleep it sa video na ito, kasi madami na din naman nakakaalam kung ano ang real name niya. Yung mga taga KOJC pa mismo ang nag-reveal ng real name niya sa mga social media posts nila, discrediting her and calling her bad names. And I know that many KOJC members will again discredit her sa comments below. Sana alam nyo that the main issue here is not about who these witnesses are, kasi we don't care who they are. The main issue here is Quiboloy and who he really is. Kaya sige lang, comment lang kayo ng inyong violent reactions so that YouTube algorithm will keep pushing our videos to reach many people and to spread awareness about this self-proclaimed appointed son of God. Anyways, ito nga palang testimony ni alias Amanda ay siyang nakasulat sa kanyang affidavit when she filed the case against Quiboloy in Davao in the year 2019 na makailang beses nang na-dismiss dahil alam naman natin kung sino ang hari sa Davao. And in return, kinasuhan pa siya ni Quiboloy ng cyber libel when in fact ang kampo ni Quiboloy ang nanghaharas sa kanya and sa kanyang family sa social media. Grabe ano. Pero I am so proud and happy for alias Amanda. Just imagine, it took her 5 years to file a case which kept being dismissed and another 5 years to finally see the justice progressing before her eyes. Kaya sa mga naabuso din dyan ni Quiboloy, please don't hesitate to report. Please reach out to the contact details in the description below to file your concerns. And sa mga members ni Quiboloy dyan na under pa din sa spell niya, this Bible verse being flashed in the screen is for your enlightenment.